everyone, my name is Natalie Yeadon. I'm the CEO and co-founder with Impetus Digital. At Impetus Digital, we have built some of the best-in-class asynchronous and synchronous virtual collaboration and communication tools. We have worked with life science companies for the last 14 years to help them with everything from online advisory boards, virtual medical education, online investigator meetings, and since the launch of our award-winning Insight Events platform, we've also been helping pharmaceutical companies with MSL and sales rep training, innovation hackathons, large corporate events, and everything else you can imagine. But more importantly at Impetus, we really believe that everything starts with a conversation. And from these big, hairy, audacious discussions with some of the leading edge thinkers, digital provocateurs, and healthcare thought leaders, we can all work together to collectively and positively disrupt healthcare. So I'm super excited to having one of these healthcare thought leaders at the table with me today. This is actually Omri Shor. He's the co-founder and CEO of a company called Medisafe. It's a leading digital therapeutic companion company that's helping patients manage their treatment journey as well as their medications and therapies. As the CEO, Omri works with major drug manufacturers to help patients manage their medications, advance the role of digital therapeutics, as well as improve health outcomes through innovative medication health trends. Prior to Medisafe, Omri helped to develop Legal. This is actually a law firm management software. So it was serving as its first commercial leader. He helped grow the company to 2,000 law firm clients in just 3 years. Omri graduated from the Strategy and Entrepreneurship MBA program at COMAS, Israel, as well as obtained his BA in economics from the University of Haifa in Israel. Welcome, Omri. So happy to have you on the show today.
Thank you very much, Natalie. It's great to be with you.
So a very impressive background from legal to drugs and everything in between. So incredible entrepreneurial journey. I'm wondering if you could share with the audience a little bit about what set you here and how you landed where you are today.
Sure. Our story with Medisafe starts back in the year of 2012. My father is diabetic and hypertensive. And it was a lovely day. And we came to his house for a nice barbecue. He asked me if I've seen him inject his insulin. And I gave him a pretty straightforward answer. I said no. By no, I meant I haven't seen you. But unfortunately, what he understood is that he has not injected his insulin. So at that point in time, he did the rational thing based on the data that he had. He injected a dose of insulin, which was the second one in a row. And his glucose levels dropped to pretty serious situation, very low. And we decided, we sent him to medical attention. And fortunately, he's with us. He's Medisafe user number 1. But it was not far from the situation where he would not be with us. So we started thinking about how people actually manage themselves with medications and in healthcare in general. And the clear situation is that they simply don't. They don't have the right tools, the right solutions. We looked across the healthcare continuum. We talked to his pharmacy, we talked to his provider, payer, and then we talked to the pharma company. And we asked them, why do you guys not provide some kind of a digital solution to help patients really manage themselves, give them the right tools, empower them? And they said, well, we simply do not have one, but if you guys will bring us one, we will be happy to promote it. So that was the beginning of Medisafe back in 2012. Since then, fun fact, May of 2012 was the month that we actually joined the Microsoft Accelerator. So we are joining this month 10 years since the inception of Medisafe, and helped throughout the years nearly 10 million registered users from this one father. So a very exciting position to be at. Over the years, after we have developed a solution where patients really feel empowered and have the right set of tools, started working with the ecosystem with the go-to-market with pharma companies. So over the last 5 or 6 years, we've been working with the pharma manufacturers, biotech, life sciences companies to support their patients in a much better way, putting the right set of solutions in the patient's hands to help them better manage their condition and their health.
Beautiful. What a wonderful story. And congratulations on your 10-year anniversary. And
Thank you.
certainly, I guess, always best memories for your father, I guess, who was sort of the starter, if you will, or the inspiration behind the company. So wonderful to hear. Love to know a little bit about Medisafe. So we have an idea about really where the idea was inspired. Tell us a little bit exactly what this platform is and what is the technology based on?
So in general, it is a set of technologies that are all connected to one place with interfaces across the healthcare continuum. We start with the patient. Inside the Medisafe app and the Medisafe website and the set of the solutions that we have, these are solutions that will engage the patient and put the right tools, right content, right interventions in front of each and every patient in a personalized way to make sure that they manage their health and their condition in a better way. Continuing, when you think about the platform, you think about a centralized data repository with a number of interfaces. So we have one interface that is helping nurses and patient support teams to understand where the patients are, prioritize which patients should we reach out to. Another area is the Maestro, which is the operating system, the creation of this entire Medisafe platform. And we have a number of additional interfaces to really touch various players inside the ecosystem. It is all backed by a really massive analytics infrastructure to allow us to understand how to approach, how to personalize, and then drive the insights back to our clients.
Let's just say, for example, I'm a theoretical pharmaceutical company and I am launching a new best-in-class diabetes medication for patients.
Yes.
I approach Medisafe. What is my conversation with Medisafe going to be about? And how is your platform going to help me with my product launch?
Superb. So most of the pharma companies that work with us are actually going to be more in the specialty space, but I'll use your example. So the conversation would be mainly for you to understand what is the role of digital therapeutics within pharma. What am I trying to achieve? I'm trying to get my patients to be well supported. I'm trying to provide them with the right set of tools to manage their patient journey from beginning through the entire process. I want to collect real-world evidence and data in a personalized, identified way. But I want to get this data and understand key trends, understand what I need to do. And then I want eventually happier, engaged patients would lead to the fact that they will persist on their medication for a longer period of time. They will adhere to their medications. Many people don't know that, but similar to my father, 700,000 people a year suffer an emergency due to mismanagement of medications. In the US alone, every 4 minutes an American dies due to mismanagement of medications. And the general US healthcare ecosystem will lose roughly about $300 billion a year due to this issue. So what we're really trying to do is to arm various players across the ecosystem with the right set of tools. So after you understand what are we trying to achieve, you will then work with us to understand the patient journey from the moment that the patient got diagnosed through prescription, getting access to the drug and taking the first dose, and from there point forward, how do we manage our patient engagement throughout this entire journey?
Lovely. I know that you were mentioning that you do a lot more work in the specialty area. I'm assuming oncology, probably rare disorders. So let's actually just step out for a minute, maybe reframe the example of an oncology product. Let's just say it's a small molecule. It's being purchased as an outpatient, so they have access to it through as a prescription. So let's actually just go through the different steps. So somebody is actually been prescribed a small molecule for, I don't know, non-small cell lung cancer or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
So what is Medisafe going to do with me at that point? How do I, as a patient, and perhaps my caregiver and or my healthcare provider, what is the interface look for me at the very early stage of filling out that prescription?
Super. So first and foremost, at the physician's office, the physician is going to refer you either to a specialty pharmacy or a hub, based on a certain set of criteria. Either way that you're going, from that point in time, we will manage the patient communication and be integrated with the industry. For the patient, at that point in time, for instance, they need to get a certain set of approvals to get the medications, transfer that to their payer so it is reimbursed. In many cases, they need to transfer all sorts of documents, such as proof of income and all sorts of documents about their health. Historically, what patients needed to do is to fill those forms and use the advanced, I would say, super advanced technology of fax. Yes, Natalie, they used fax to send it to the physician's office. What happens today with Medisafe is that the patient gets a notification from the hub nurse or specialty pharmacy saying, hey, we need these documents, and they get it into their Medisafe app. And by clicking this notification, it opens a scanning camera, and it allows the patient to scan the information, and by that transfers it directly to the hub. That process roughly takes about 4 to 5 minutes. This process previously with the access to fax, I used to take roughly 3 weeks. So we shortened that process to onboard the patient on the drug. Continuing from there, the drug is now delivered to the patient. We live in an environment of immediate gratification. I want to know where my package is for my new shirt, but more than everything, for the drug that is being shipped to my house. So now the patient has the ability to do that inside the Medisafe experience. Continuing from there, this is an oral medication. How do I take it? What are potential contraindications or side effects? And how will I feel? Are all questions. If one of these questions are not answered correctly, is not answered correctly, or are, if a few of them, the patient will just take the inaction typically. They will just not do what they're supposed to do, which is take the drug. It's going to stay on the shelf. It will roughly take 2 to 3 months until someone understood that it is now on the shelf and someone needs to take action. With Medisafe, it is pretty immediate. We will transfer data to the nurse and say, hey, patient is not responding to notifications. You might want to reach out. And not only that, the patient can now go and, by the click of a button, coordinate a call with the hub nurse. Previously, that process used to involve the advanced technology of cold calling a patient without any data. So the call would be as follows. Natalie, I am calling from the hub. I now need to identify you. Can you please give me your first, last name, and social security number? I'm not typically giving this information, if I even answered in unrecognized call. But now that we have the patient on the other side, the technology can identify the patient, and everything becomes really streamlined. By deploying the technology with one of our pharma partners, within just 1 year, we've been able to reach 24,000 patients. This is massive, massive scale. For each one of those patients, in average, we have an NPS score of 71, which for healthcare is just really out of charts. We have saved about 3 million nurse hours, 3 million nurse hours. And because patients are happy, they are staying on the drug for a longer period of time, which is exactly about 1.5 additional months. We're talking about specialty medications. So every month of additional use of the drug would be roughly $4,000. So this is $6,000. You multiply it by 24,000. We're talking a nice 9-digit improvement here. So this is strategic. This is meaningful from every aspect that you're looking at.
You said something that's actually a phenomenal process and really streamlining things and making it a much more enjoyable experience if there can be one as a patient. But curious about your use of the word "and patients are happy." You also referred earlier that patients are engaged. What else is your app doing? I'm curious around the integration potentially of patient support programs. Is there other things that are gamified that feel a little bit like a fitness tracker or something that provides that dopamine drip that you're doing something right?
Yes, so all of the above. Medisafe uses proprietary technology, patented pending that we've developed that we call GD. GD stands for just-in-time intervention. So in general, for each and every patient, Medisafe will identify based on their profile, based on which device they're using, their socioeconomics, location, their medications, and so on and so forth. We will determine what is the right set of interventions for each and every patient at every point in time. So for Omri, I'm located in Boston, but in a certain area, the app might consider me that I need a copay assistant. I need some persuasion around the condition and taking the medication. And then another thing is potentially to track over time that I'm creating a winning streak by taking the medications correctly. You, Natalie, where are you from?
Toronto.
It's a wonderful place. So for you, we might focus on taking the medications, extending your quality of living, so you can enjoy the outside, so you can enjoy it with your family members. We might want to talk at that point in time about all sorts of additional benefits that your better health will have on you. So two different personas will get completely different set of interventions to make sure that those patients are engaged. Happiness is measured with a very easy set of KPIs. Net Promoter Score is one of them. NPS. Another one is a set of questionnaires that we can track with patients. And essentially, you want to see that patients are adhering to their medications and that they are using them for a longer period of time.
Curious about Medisafe as a longer-term app. We hear a lot about machine learning, smart algorithms that continue to learn and kind of grow with you as a person and they get smarter. When we think about some of these sort of short-term interventional, I guess, if you will, sickness care model, where do you predict this will go in terms of the longer term play for the super app or the medication app that lives with a person through the evolution of their own personal health trajectory? So they may finish a bout of cancer, but then they go get well again, maybe something else that happens. How are you looking at the durability of Medisafe in an individual's life trajectory?
So in general, that's a great question. In general, we initially envisioned all sorts of things, but 10 years in, we have the data. So a patient will use Medisafe in average for 9.5 months. That includes patients who will use us for a 10-day course of antibiotics, and includes patients who will use us on a chronic medication for a very long period of time. For those folks who use us for a long period of time, there are two key reasons for that. One is that we continue to empower them with the right tools and the right solutions that they need. The other reason is that they delegate a lot of their daily habits to us. And over many years, my father used to take medications 4 times a day. 4 times a day for 20 years. One can do the math, but we're talking about 10 and hundreds of thousands of doses that need to be taken at a precise time. And everything in your daily habits can throw you off course. And so from that perspective, we see a lot of patients who will delegate their medication management to us.
Absolutely. Yeah, it sounds really, really brilliant. I'm also just curious about the impact and the involvement of the people around you. So a lot of our habit formation, the sensibility around automaticity comes from social support and the people around you. So I was curious about how Medisafe integrates the people that you love or care for you, caregivers, even who surrounds you, and potentially other support systems. How are they incorporated into the system?
Super question. So in general, you want to think about two types of support systems that patient will have. One is the professional system. This would be patient support by the pharma company, patient, the nurses, the doctors, and so on. The other one is, in general, family members. Medisafe, from the get-go, 2012, we took a product decision that we want to be more than a pure medication reminder. So yesterday, I was on a call with an investor, and that investor says, we finished the call actually 5 minutes over time, and he said, I have one last question. Me and my wife, we're both managing our kids' medication. They need to take daily meds. And one day I'm at home and she's in a yoga class. And the next day I'm out because I have a business dinner or something like that. And we just can't keep track. So Medisafe, straight from the beginning, maybe because of our inception story with my father, implemented caregiver management system. So between my father and my mother, my father is taking the medication, and my mother is the caretaker. And if he won't take his medications on time, let's say 8 a.m., he will get another reminder 10 past, 20 past, and 30 past. The next one is going to go to my mother, and she's going to tell her, hey, he was supposed to take his meds, but he hasn't. So now we have the support system implemented inside. We empower the support system with the right content that they need to know about the medications. Obviously, it's important for the patient to be empowered, but obviously for the ecosystem. For the professional side, we will have a set of dashboards that they can watch and understand what's the situation with the patient. So again, those hub nurses that used to, sorry for the use of the word, but cold call patients, because it is on the protocol to call the patient once a month. And it used to be that awkward conversation, calling on Natalie and asking if she's taking her meds and how is she doing. Now they call the patient with a knowledge. Hey, I see here that you have a question about how to inject the medication in different locations in your body. I'm happy to answer your question. So now the patient is obviously far more engaged, but at the same time, the nurses just are so excited about Medisafe taking care of some of those, routine and boring tasks that they used to need to take care of.
Pharma obviously is going to benefit from a patient adherence and sustainability portion, obviously better for the patient, better for the pharma companies in terms of actual revenues that are generated as a result of not stopping their medication. I guess the other question also has to do with innovation and the development of new creative technologies, new medicines, et cetera. Clinical trials are really essential part to this. We've been hearing since COVID-19 a huge emphasis on decentralization and hybrid trials. I was curious about the app, which now houses, like you said, just even for one manufacturer, 24,000 patients and up if you look at your entire database. How is that database being leveraged? And of course, keeping anonymity and, all of that, the whole thing around security of information. How is that information being leveraged? Or how can it be leveraged for clinical trial recruitment and also leveraging it, if you will, for the digital twin concept, the clinical trials in situ, the idea of using database and information as one of the study arms in clinical trials. So curious about how your information can be used.
Yeah, so it is. Recently, we started using Medisafe throughout the entire patient journey, but also throughout the entire product lifecycle. The pharma product lifecycle starts from the clinical trials through the launch of the drug, and as it matures, at some point, it comes to a point that it's the LOE, the loss of exclusivity in the market. There is a very strong claim to be made for each one of these steps. So in the clinical trial, one of the most expensive things to do is to recruit patients. And therefore, the most painful things are events are when patients become disengaged and not taking their medications correctly, not collecting the data correctly. So by leveraging Medisafe to manage the patient journey, we get the patients to be more engaged in this process, therefore being able to complete trials. You then go to the launch, and as preparation to the launch, you want to start and create that patient population that would be relevant for this medications, again, in a HIPAA-compliant, de-identified way, so that's Medisafe's ability to support with that. Then we launch. It is important for us to make sure that we maintain that drumbeat. There's nothing worse than, from a business perspective, to launch a drug to the market and seeing that because you miscommunicated with patients, they will discontinue with the drug. They then go to the physician. The physician asks them, why have you not taken the drug? And typically the answer would not be taking responsibility and saying it is on me. It could be, a question about side effect or I'm not sure about the medication, so on and so forth. So the physician at that point in time would do the right thing from his perspective, which is to switch the patient. 2, 3, 4 times that the physician now switched patients from this drug, it's not going to create the comfort to prescribe the drug to many other patients. So it is critical to be able at that point in time to support patients. And then when the drug reaches peak and even is going to get to the loss of exclusivity, that point in time, it is critical to maintain connection with the patients and to differentiate. Some manufacturers are even looking at digital technologies as a solution to extend the life cycle, to extend patents. So that's an option as well.
Well, on that topic, we've talked a lot about chemical entities, but I was curious now, especially now with the new designations by the FDA and others, of regulating and approving software as medical devices, as either an adjunct to the standard of care or potentially even replacing it. So this theoretical world that a physician may one day prescribe an app in a digital app pharmacy. Curious as to how Medisafe potentially deals or works with companies that are either planning on or having a clinical trial or have launched a product that's a software as a medical device?
Yeah, so first and foremost, Medisafe is meeting many of the qualifications of software as a medical device. And in fact, by the end of, I would say, a quarter from today, we'll have all the requirements to qualify from that perspective. So here's a piece of news for today's listeners. But aside, that how do I get a patient to be engaged with my therapy for a long period of time, whether is it digital or whether is it the medication itself, is critical at the same level. If the patient becomes disengaged, there will be no benefit. So even today, 1 p.m., I have a call with a digital therapeutics company that has that type of digital therapies that contacted us to see how we can help and keep their patients engaged over time.
Curious as sort of, a final note here about being the platform of choice for pharmaceutical life science companies. The question comes down to, you look at big pharma and they want to develop their own app, they want to own it, they want to push it through. And then you look at smaller companies and, their own versions, and maybe they don't have the manpower. How do you differentiate your platform to be the attractive platform that both large and small companies go to? And how do you message to them this idea of digital transformation and that you being the go-to platform for them?
It's a wonderful question. So I think that it starts with agreeing on the future of medication engagement. So let's talk about 5 building stones, bricks in the big wall of the medication engagement. So I believe that it starts with supporting the full patient journey, diagnosis, through treatment, to monitoring, and it needs to be personalized to each and every patient. The building block number 2 is that it needs to be accompanied with every medication and throughout the entire life cycle, from clinical trials, launch, all the way to LOE. I think that the opportunity is to democratize and accelerate software as a medical device time to market. And it could be gray or white labeled, offered to biotech or pharma companies globally. And then various interfaces to connect all the aspects of the ecosystem: provider, payer, pharmacy, PBM, pharma-based support to the patient. Finally, massive data drives insights, and that leads to better outcomes. So if we use those building stones that I talked about earlier, in a big organization, and we're both in nimble technology companies, as good as I am, that it is very difficult to bring a product to market. And in fact, by the time that a bigger organization is going to bring a product to market, in some cases, it would no longer be relevant. So what we are offering our pharma partners, big and small, is to use the Medisafe platform, and they can build on top of the platform against the other option of building from scratch. That will have the consequences of building on a solution that is proven, that patients use, that have been proven in clinical trials, and the ability to bring something to market in 3 to 6 months, as opposed to a process that historically used to be years of R&D. And it is also obviously far more cost effective to bring a solution like this to market. And we're talking about, high 6 to low 7 figures to bring a solution to market. Recently, I spoke with a pharma company. They made an investment of $50 million to bring a solution to market, 50, and failed. And then they went to another player in our space paid them additional $10 million to bring the product to market and failed.
Wow.
So sometimes, choosing the right partners to go to market with that can be nimble, that can bring you to market quickly, is really critical. I'll say one last thing. Respect our pharma partners a lot, but pharma is notoriously known for a one and done. This is what you do with the medication. You bring the medication to market, and that's it. There are no iterations. Digital is different. Digital requires many iterations, and in fact, many failures until you get it to be successful. So it is just not in their DNA to bring a product and iterate again and again and again until it's better. The second thing is that if you bring a medication to market and it fails to do what was expected, it is devastating for a company. It can literally kill a pharma company if that happened. And it's also very dangerous to patients at the same time. So those companies grew in a risk-averse mentality. This is not the case for a digital company. We know that we are required to move fast, and we're required to fail. No failure is going to be devastating, but we need to be able to iterate fast. So those things really drove home recently to quite a few of our pharma partners choosing to let go of their previous digital endeavors and building on top of their Medisafe platform.
Yeah, lovely, lovely, and so brilliantly said. I think it's absolutely wonderful. So many great things here, Omri. And for anybody who's listening to this and really intrigued by the platform, about what Omri is sharing, about the vision for the company, and but just basically an opportunity to launch a product, or any part of where you are with your brand lifecycle, please look for Omri's connection and contact details in the show notes below. He would love to actually hear from you, so please reach out. If you also enjoy the show, check out impetusdigital.com. These are the kinds of conversations that we have with pharmaceutical companies, working with payers, physicians, allied healthcare providers, and patients in a series of synchronous and asynchronous touch points, helping you to build plans. How are you going to leverage something like a Medisafe into your program, or how you're going to integrate your patient support program into their platform, et cetera. So a series of strategies and tactics that you can actually employ through our online platform. We would love if you can like and subscribe to our channel, and please actually also leave some feedback on iTunes. We want to thank everybody for your time today. And Omri, thank you for a fantastic conversation.